This is Marie from Underground Crafter. Grab those needles, we're getting ready to knit. Today I'm going to show you how to knit 8-stitch cables like I used in my transmission beanie pattern. This pattern uses both types of 8-stitch cables, so it uses left-leaning cables and it also uses right-leaning cables. If you don't know what any of that means, don't worry, because I'll show you in this tutorial. Yarn for this tutorial was generously provided by King Cole. To make an 8-stitch cable, you'll need yarn, appropriately sized knitting needles, and a cable needle. For an 8-stitch cable, you'll want to cast on 12 stitches for each cable panel. That'll include 4 purl stitches to offset the 8-stitch cable. First, I'm going to show you how to do a front cable which will lean left. So these are sometimes called C8F for cable 8 stitches held to the front, or they could also be called an 8-stitch left leaning cable. So I'm going to start with my cable needle, and what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to slide off 4 stitches onto the cable needle. 1, 2, 3, 4. Since this is a front leaning cable, I'm going to let the cable needle fall to the front of the project, and then with my regular knitting needles, you may want to move it out of the way a little bit, I'm going to knit 4 stitches. So that's a very standard knit. I'm going to insert my needle, yarn over and pull through, and that's 1, 2, slide them up a little bit more, 3, 4. Okay, so that's the first half. I'm going to slide that down a little. For the next 4 stitches, I'm going to actually knit off of the cable needle. So if you're worried about losing the loops of your yarn, you can just slide them down on your other needle. And what you want to do before you start the cable is make sure that you have your yarn not too much slack. Sometimes when you switch to the cable needle, you might end up picking the yarn up, too far from where the working yarn is. And you want to slide down a little bit so that you're using the tip to work into the cable needle. And then you're going to knit these 4 off the cable needle. So you're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and I'm going to put my cable needle on the side and then slide down the loops. I want to just show you this project that I made that has this type of cable in it. So you can see it leans to the left. I didn't have any more of this yarn left, so I couldn't do the tutorial in this yarn. But this is also a King Cole yarn. It's called King Cole Explorer, super bulky. And so you can see that the cables lean to the left side. So now I'm going to show you how to do the right leaning cable. So they would look really similar to this, but the cables would lean this way. As I mentioned, usually cables have stitches in between them to offset them. So in this case it's 4 purls, so I'm just going to do my 4 purls. Okay, so now I'm going to show how to do an 8-stitch cable that would be leaning to the right, and that would be held at the back. So this is sometimes abbreviated as C8B for cable 8-stitch back, or as an 8-stitch right leaning cable, so 8RC. As with the other cable, we're going to start by slipping the first 4 stitches onto the cable needle. But instead of holding it at the front, we're going to hold it at the back. An additional thing to keep in mind is making sure you bring the yarn so that it's still held at the back of this needle, but that it's in front of the cable needle. Otherwise, what will happen is you'll kind of tie up your cable needle and you'll end up tangling your work. So again, you want the yarn in back of the needle that you're working from, but in front of the cable needle that's held at the back. And now you're going to knit 4 stitches off of your regular needle. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I can put this needle down in this case, which is nice, but if I had more stitches on it, I could just slide them down a little bit. And then I'm going to get my cable needle, and just as before, I want to make sure that my working yarn is behind the cable needle so that I don't accidentally tangle it up. And then I'm going to knit the 4 stitches off the cable needle. 1, 2, 3, 4. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Be sure to follow, like, and subscribe on whatever platform you're watching this video on. Have a great day!